Hello, everyone. Welcome to the freaking 10K months to 50K months summit. We are already on our third freaking panel speaker, and every single conversation I've had has just been like literally pure gold. And for those of you guys who didn't catch the first two speakers, I just wanted to give you a little bit of like a vibe as to why this summit means so much to me. And then we'll dive into Courtney's, like, honestly, it's gonna be gold. Like, I love this woman and I'm so excited for her to share everything with you. So I'm really, really excited. But just to give you a little bit of a backstory as to why I started this summit, I spent 3 years at 10K months. Three
Mhm.
fucking years. And this is not from someone who is just like sitting back, like hoping and waiting. This is from a woman who, so ambitious, so hungry, so driven, working with like multiple mentors and coaches throughout the time, one-on-one, in masterminds, at in-person events, traveling to go to events, like you name it, I did it. And yet I literally had that barrier of 10K months. And I can tell you, like, the amount of shame that came up, not so much year one, you're like, cool, like I made six figures, like let's fucking go. Year two, it's like, okay, like I've been making 10K months for like a year, then a year and a half, then 2 years, and then like by year three, my shame was so high because I just felt like, who am I as a business owner if I cannot scale my business beyond 10K months? Like, there must be something wrong with me. And there must be something going on, like under the surface. Like, there's got to be something. And so, honestly, like that started creating such a massive, like, emotional, like turmoil for me. And so years later now, I just like had this like real pull and nudge to run this summit because I know that there are other women out there who, whether it's 10K months, whether it's 5K months, whether it's 20K months, you have hit a plateau and you see other business owners like skyrocketing through the roof. You feel them like exploding, sales like going nuts, like things like like fucking celebrations and fireworks, and you're just like, what the F? Like, you're putting in the work, you're taking the action, you're doing the things, you're on, you're on the places, you're on YouTube, you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, you're on the things, and yet it's like not working beyond the 10K or the 20K. So if that's where you are, I'm so glad you're here. And I honestly believe that this needs to be your freaking breakthrough because the women that I have been speaking to have been giving you like the like raw, honest truth as to like what was required for them to jump from either 10K, some of them it was more like 20K, to suddenly making 50K, 100K months, 150K months, and so on, right? And so I'm really excited because I know that this is about you. Like, you, the listener, you watching this, either live or on the recording, like, this is about you freaking breaking through. And I'm so committed to you turning your 10K months into 50K months because I know it means more than just a number. It's much more than just a number. It means you finally doing something that you've been so committed to, that you're so obsessed with, that you've been thinking about and dreaming about for so long. And so this needs to be your freaking breakthrough. So that is the intro to this summit, and I'm so excited to have everyone here. So first of all, Courtney, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to interview you.
Oh my God, I'm so fired up from that introduction. I was like, yes, yes, yes.
Oh, I could go on for ages. Okay, so let's just like dive right in. So, what would you say for you was the pivotal mindset shift that
Mm.
allowed you to break through the 10K month barrier, or it could have been like 5K, 15K, whatever it was for you, to then scale to 50K months? What was
Yeah.
that pivotal mindset shift?
Yeah, there's so many, but I would say two things specifically is there's nothing actually wrong with you, anybody watching this. And that was a big thing. It was like, there's something wrong, there's something missing. Do we refine strategy and build on it? Absolutely. But I was so much in the loop of like, okay, there's something wrong, there's something I'm missing. And that's where I see women go to shiny strategy syndrome. Oh, what's she doing? And what's this doing? When I really understood there's literally nothing wrong with me. I'm just on the journey and I'm on the path. That immediately released so much pressure and it allowed me to actually enjoy the journey so much more. I let go of the timeline. And I am someone, I come from like an athlete background. I work with a lot of athletes. So it's like similar to what you were saying, Olivia. It's like we're driven, we're hungry. I'm not like la di da in my business, but I used to set, okay, this month has to be a 10K month, or this month has to be a 20K month. And what that did was it actually put such a timeline, but all of these restrictions on what my journey was. So
Yeah.
for me, I remember I was around 7 to 10K months, and I knew within, like, it was an inner knowing 20K months. Like that for me was like, that was a stretch. I was like, I'm a real business owner if I'm at that 20K month mark. Like that's just where I wanted to operate. And I remember this was November of 2022. And I said, I literally don't care when it happens. I don't care if it's tomorrow, if it's next week, if it takes 3 months, 5 years. I'm committed to the journey. That was the same thing from when I went from 100K months. It was the same mentality where I stopped trying to suffocate the timeline. It has to be March, it has to be April, because then we get to, well, it's the 27th and I'm not here yet and something's wrong. And then we give up and then we start all over. So I would say letting go of the timeline actually was the reason how I was able to collapse the timeline. And I enjoyed the journey so much more. It was, I know I'm going to make 20K months. I know I'm going to make 50K months. I know I'm going to make 100K months. And I'm here for the ride. I'm here for the ups. I'm here for the downs. I'm here for me being on my own path. And that brought so much more joy and fun. And like my nervous system was like, oh, versus this like push and this shove. And that doesn't mean that we don't take action, but I loved the journey. Like every single growth spurt, every single glass ceiling that I break, I actually stop setting a timeline. And that is how I've collapsed the timelines from 10 to 20, from 20 to 50, from 50 to 100 and beyond. Was I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if it's next week, if it's tomorrow, if it's in a year from now. It's my path, it's my journey. And if we get to, I remember I had a 17K month when I was really going after a 20K month. And I was like, okay, more work to do, more refinement to do, more strengthening to do, versus oh, we missed it. So it really was falling in love with the journey. It wasn't, I need to cross the milestone and then I cross the milestone and then I'm a big deal. It was coming back to, I love this work and I'm going to do this for my life. So what's the rush? And that really, to our logical minds, it's so tricky to step into that because we're taught go and move and hustle and push, but to be like, okay, when it happens, it happens. And I'm still going to show up with intention and I'm still going to be hungry and have that drive, but I'm not going to feel this disappointment if I miss it. And if I'm, a couple $1,000s short, it's just like amazing. Let's go again. And that really created so much more excitement and joy in my business. And because of that, I'm such a big proponent of like playing in business. The more fun you can have in business, the more money that you will make every single time. I've seen women that make a lot of money and they're miserable. And I've seen women that jump timelines and they are having the time of their life. So it really was detaching from the actual timeline. And it was like, I know we're going to make 100K months. When it happens, I don't know. And I'm so excited for the bumps and the hurdles and the ups and the downs and who I get to be and the lessons. And when I get there, I'm going to celebrate. But then it's like, let's go again. Let's go back on this journey.
Oh my God, like 20 different questions came to mind when you when you said that. I was like, oh my God, what about this? This is so juicy. And I think this is a weird question that came up, which it feels interlinked with what you just said, because you were saying like it's also about refining and it's
Mm.
also about like learning, like when you hit, I think it was like 17K a month or it was 7K, I can't remember,
Yeah.
and you were like, okay, no problem, like it means more refinement. How do you, and I this is such a good question for you specifically, because so how do you stick to like Courtney and like
Mm.
being you and like the aura of you? Because through your TikTok videos, through your Instagram, it's so you, like it isn't, in my view, like it isn't other people. So how do you, and obviously it's like probably a dance, but how do you stick to like being all Courtney and at the same time like taking on what you just said, like refinement, like tweaking the marketing, tweaking the strategy, learning from a mentor? Like what's your take on that?
Yeah. For me, the strategy is always 100% me, whether I'm in a season of refining, in a season of strengthening. And I
Mm,
think that's another really important thing is you have to find your way of doing it, your way of selling, your way of launching, your way of doing content. And that allowed me to actually look at refining in a really different way because I think a lot of women, and I used to do this a lot in 2022, okay, we need to refine. Most people think refine equals try a new strategy. Refine to me is like, it just needs more of you. It just needs more soul. It just needs more heart. So
interesting.
that's what my version of like refinement looks like is it's not let me go do a whole new strategy, which I see a lot of people do. Okay, I missed it by whatever the number is,
Yeah.
or the launch didn't go according to plan. Like whatever that's happening, it's not let me go try a new strategy. It's like, okay, I need more me in my business. And that's always been how I've jumped in income. Like my biggest months, I'm 100% Courtney. I really,
Yeah.
I love other women in the online space, but I'm like, I have no idea what anyone's doing. I don't know who's winning, who's losing, who's talking shit about me, who's loving. Like I don't. It's like me and my community, me and my community. So for
Oh
me,
my God, this is so good. This is so good. Keep
to
going.
give like a tangible example of like how this looks and like refinement with TikTok, because I love TikTok, is if I will go back and I can be very, I'm such a strategy girly through and through, and I will look at what TikTok videos performed really well. And I can look at, okay, this one went viral. It brought in the right women. And I actually got a lot of women that said, hey, Courtney, I saw this video and I'd love to work with you. For me, I'm like, okay, now I know I have to do more of that. That's
Yeah.
my refinement versus what's this girl posting because it went viral. It's like, this works for me. Let's double down on this. And the same thing, I'll look at certain TikTok videos that didn't perform well. And I look at it very objectively. Okay, why? Why did it not get enough comments? Why did it actually reach the wrong people that I don't want to be serving? Okay, amazing. So I'm going to either tweak this to speak to who I want to, or this isn't a conversation that's actually landing with the women I want to work with. So I'm going to remove that and double down on this versus looking on the outside. So that's how I go into refinement. Same thing if I'm looking back on a launch that I had expectations for the launch and it didn't hit those numbers. That happens. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll go back and I'll look at my content and I'll see where did people buy the most when I was talking about my story. Okay, so we need more storytelling content. Where did people ghost me the most when I was talking about the features of the program? Okay, so now we know that doesn't work as well. So my refinement is looking at it's me versus well, I have to try ads now, or like I have to go build out more emails. It's okay, this is working. Let's double down, refine on that. This isn't landing as much, and that's okay. That's part of refinement versus let me switch the strategy. And that's where I see a lot of people hit an income and then things come crashing down because they switch their strategy in a way that isn't actually them. I'm like, how can I bring more of me? And that's my version of refinement.
Oh my gosh. So I have like two questions. So first of all, um, if someone doesn't have the like number of views that you do,
Mm.
and they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're on YouTube, they're on TikTok, whatever it might be, and so they don't have the data yet to really be like, okay, that one was really juicy, let's amp that one up. What would you like if you were coaching a client on this, like what would you suggest that they do to be more them? If they're like, I don't really know where or how to be more me because I don't have the data coming in yet.
Yeah, a few different things. I think if you're in that stage in business, there's so much play involved. Like, I would really commit to like 30 to 60 days of consistently posting content because that's where you can strategically pull the data. The other thing is go where you're most alive. You probably have, for anyone watching, a piece of content where it took you 5 minutes and you're like, oh my God, I have so much to say. You do an Instagram, and even if nobody shows up, you were like electric. To
Yeah.
me, that's you
Yeah.
versus, and everyone's experienced this. You post a piece of content and you're like, I didn't even feel activated by that. So that's how I can look at, internally, how do you feel? Because we've all tried strategies that have made someone else millions and you try them on and you're like, I actually don't feel connected. It's not this strategy. It's just that's not your pathway. So I do start to look at where do you feel most alive in your business. I always love asking my clients this question, regardless of where they are in business, is how do you actually want to lead? Do you want to have massive group programs? Do you want to do a lot of storytelling content? Do you want to be bold and spicy on the internet? And in just asking that question of like, how do I actually want to lead? How do I want to communicate to my audience? it just opens up, oh, I actually love being live. Okay, so like let's double down on lives more. I actually love carousels. Like they're so fun for me to create. Then it's like, okay, let's double down on that more. So that's where I really like to look at is like, where do you feel most alive, and go there. And I don't create content that doesn't activate me. Like if I, and I've clocked myself on this of,
Mm.
you're writing a carousel and you're 45 minutes in and you're like, okay, like then go do an Instagram live. And I see that a lot where people are like, I have so much to say. And I'm like, go live or write it in a carousel. So that's the process. And that process never goes away. I'll just say that. Like, regardless of where you are, entrepreneurship is just a journey of coming back home to you. And I still go through this like, okay, like what feels good, what feels aligned, what feels like it actually excites me, because that's going to connect the best with your audience. So I do look at, even if you don't yet have the data, one, you probably do have the data. I like looking at, even if, when I was first starting on TikTok, I didn't have thousands of people following me, but I would get a video that had like 500 views and some that had like 200 views. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
there's a tip there. I had two comments and then I would have zero comments. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's is that little bit of data. I think people think they need thousands of followers and millions of comments to pull data from, and it you really don't. Like it can start as simple as, and that's how I started refining my TikTok, was I got one extra comment on this video and the comment was really aligned. Perfect, double down on that. So it was that little
Yeah.
bit versus, well, I don't have 700 comments, so I have no data. It's like you do. Like, and that's what it started for me. It was like there was one extra comment or 10 saves versus one save. It's like there is a little bit of a jump there that I can start to pull that on. But the other thing too, I would say is this all the time, you will find what works the best for you when you stop looking at what she's doing. Like she's already taken. She's already taken. Her business is amazing, whatever it is that she's doing. But as long as we're doing this, you're
Yeah.
never going to find what works for you. Like it's always going to be, your content's going to be a little bit of her and a little bit of this, where if you actually stop all consumption, which I know can be challenging,
Mhm.
and you show up on social media to post and do the things that you need to move your business forward, and you sit with yourself, so much more creativity will come through. And that's also where what I call original content. When I'm doing my TikTok videos, you can't copy it because I'm like, it's my story. It's something where shower thoughts come in and I'm like, oh my God, I need to talk about this. So the space in you'll find your creativity when you stop consuming. And that's how you find what actually works for you.
Oh my God. It's the reason I feel like this is like such gold is because when I was in year one of my business and I was really struggling and I like wasn't seeing any sale or some sales. And then suddenly in year two, I did like a massive quantum leap from like 1K a month to 10K a month where suddenly I had like a vibey like community. It's exactly what you're talking about. It was like really letting myself be alive, go alive, and like follow the electric, follow the fire, follow where I feel like, oh, this is juicy, as opposed to like what is right. And I think it's hard sometimes because they always talk about avatar and this and that and like a gazillion marketing strategies. And I'm not saying that those things are completely wrong, but what you're suggesting in my world is like really where you start seeing like the dreamy clients. Like it doesn't matter if like you run a PR business or run if like you're a Facebook ad strategist or you do coaching. It's like when you're most alive, then you'll attract the people who are like most resonating at that frequency. And then it's such an easy yes, then for like the next paid whatever, whether it's a package or contract or whatever. As opposed to like when you're just sort of here and it's like flat, like it's flat and like what you're saying, like a bit boring, then it's like, who are you going to attract? And like, who do you do not want to attract those people? Like, because that would not be a dreamy client realistically. So I love what you're saying. And so I'm really curious. So because I know you're in mentorship, so I'm really curious, like, how do you then utilize mentorship? Because I'm thinking about the woman who's making 10K months and she's like, cool, like, this is so good. And she's like, I've also got this coach or I've got a mentor, I've got a couple coaches. So like, how do I utilize them? If it's more about just being more me and refining more me, then how do I utilize that? And in your case specifically, how do you utilize mentorship then?
I love this question so much. And I think this is such a good conversation because I really have so much self awareness in mentorship. My strategy can be wildly different from my mentor, and that's okay. And I think true mentorship. Mentorship is not, here's what made me 100K months, now go copy and paste that. I have clients that have completely different strategies, completely different offers, but my role is to find what lights them up. So when I'm in mentorship, I am asking not what my mentor is doing to get results. I'm saying, here's what I love doing. I love TikTok lives. What are ways that you can see me leverage lives more in a way that's going to build my community versus, oh, you did this Instagram post and it went viral. What did you do? Let me go try it on.
Right.
I don't do that. And the other thing as well is like full permission for everybody. And I say this to my clients, like, you don't always have to take my advice. And that doesn't mean that my advice is good or bad, but when I'm getting strategy from my mentor, I have enough self-awareness to filter, to be like, I value that and I see this, the why you're sharing that with me,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't work. And I don't want to try that on. And sometimes I'll try on a strategy because I'm all about trial and error. I'm all about, let me test it, let me get the data. Did it work? Did it feel good? Yes, no, okay. But I really look at, okay, and I've gotten so many incredible suggestions and strategy from my mentor, but I can filter and know that and I think this is such a good conversation because sometimes people pedestal their mentors
Yeah.
versus we're the same. They're more experienced, they have more knowledge and wisdom, but it's not what they say goes. It's not the be all end all. So I really do, for anyone watching, like filter through. It's like, do I want to run another masterclass to launch this offer? No. Okay, so and that's where I'll say, I totally hear what you're saying on running another masterclass. That doesn't feel alive for me. Can we explore different ways that I can leverage lead generation?
Yeah.
Or I would love to sell more high ticket, but right now, the strategy of launching this type of offer, it's not aligned with how I want to lead my offers. Can we explore different ways? And that's the best type of mentorship where your mentor gets to really understand you more, but you're able to say, and again, it's not like I'm saying to my mentor, like, no, that strategy sucks. It's like, I'm going to try that on, or I'm going to take this and I'm going to leave that. I'm going to take this and I'm going to leave that. And that's also what I see so many women that create such success for themselves is they have that level of self-awareness. Like at the end of the day, you are the CEO. You can be like, no, yes, I'm going to try it on. I'm going to see how it feels. And in the beginning of my business, and I've been in mentorship since day one, in the beginning, my very first mentor, and this was kind of just me really understanding how mentorship worked, I took everything as law. She
Yeah.
said to do this, and you do it exactly, and you don't stray from it. But then what happens is you box yourself in. And I always love giving the analogy of like the strategy is like the spine. If we think of kind of like a body, it's like the strategy is the skeleton, you're the heartbeat. So my mentor can give me strategy, and I'm like, okay, this is the framework, the outline, but when I add my take on it, when I add my heartbeat, when I add my unique lens on doing this strategy, like launching, for an example, I don't think there's one way of launching. There is sales psychology involved. There are different phases that you go through, but I play. Like some people will do their warm up phase one way, and I'm like, we're going to skip this and we're going to go right into pre sale. And my pre sale is going to look like a whole party where everyone else does it on the back end of a masterclass. So it's taking the strategy, but then making it your own, but also having enough self awareness to be like, no, this doesn't work. Not that it doesn't work for me, but that's not aligned with how I want to lead. And then can we explore other options? And that's the best type of collaboration that you can have with a mentor.
I can really see just from your explanation, like how much I pedestaled my mentors during those first 4 years. And like you just said, like whatever they said was like gold and like that's it. And that's perfect at the time. It was like that season, but like what you're describing, I think is so powerful and really reflects your level of maturity in business. And one of them, probably one of the big reasons that you're making the money that you're making because it's that ability to keep coming back what you were describing to like home to your core and like really like using it like a filter system in your body and like how does this sit what so I get really curious about that as well because I know from so I'm like really big on the subconscious work and mindset work and things and it's interesting because they say like habits and the way that you function and the way that you operate is like your norm and you think like oh this is like the right way and it feels good so I'm going to keep doing this and yet when you learn about like shadow work and other things you realize sometimes some of your old patterns like how you are in friendships or how you are with your clients or how you are with your team members or how you are leading whatever it might be it's actually like not the most powerful, potent, efficient, or effective way to lead or to grow your business or to work with your clients. And yet you're doing it because it's like it feels good. Like for example, I'll use my own example. Like I used to run away so quick from like client relationships and to friendships and all the things because anytime it got a bit too intimate and a little bit too like vulnerable or where I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna be able to actually see me, like fuck, run. Then I would run. And so that would create like quite short term, like let's say client packages or short term friendships. And looking back, it's like if I'd had someone, if I had listened to like a coach or a mentor who was like, huh, like what about this other way? But at the time I would have been like, that doesn't feel good. Like I would have gone quite quick into like reactive mode, but like, no, that doesn't feel good. You don't understand. Like I don't do live streams, or you don't understand. I don't do this, or you don't understand like blah, blah, blah. When really it's like that was more like my old, like kind of dysfunctional patterning. And I'm
Yeah.
sure people do this in business. So I'm curious for you, it's like when you're working with clients and they're like potentially like, no, no, no. And someone could say, well, that's just their self-awareness. They're not into like pre-selling or they're not into live streaming or they're not into working with their clients in like longevity. But then you from your space of like having been doing this for quite a few years, you're kind of like, or is it that that
Yeah.
is a really shitty pattern and it's keeping you really effing stuck? And I get that it feels good to your like nervous system to stay there, but it's actually like capping you. Like, what's your take on that? Like, what are your thoughts on that whole
Yeah.
thing?
I love this question. I love to look at from like my perspective as a mentor, but also for anyone listening, the intention behind the energy. So let's say as an example, Instagram lives are just not for you. This was a conversation I was having with a client. Is it not for you because you love connecting through long form podcast, or is it not for you because you're actually just scared? And that tells me when you're in your comfort zone or when it's like out of alignment for lack of a better term. So, I have a client, she's like, I hate live streams. And I'm like, why? She's like, they make me nervous. Okay, well, that's a comfort zone. That's not actually not the way that you want to lead. So I always love, and I do this for myself, is like, am I saying no to this because I actually want to lead differently? Or am I saying no because I've hit my glass ceiling and I'm uncomfortable?
Yes.
And this is the thing I love so much about, and like my take really on, and I love, I've like been certified in somatics, but like when you're stretching to a bigger income level, your
Mhm.
nervous system is uncomfortable, like 100%. I look at this like an elastic band.
Yeah.
When we're stretching capacity, it's uncomfortable. And I think a lot of people think making 50K months feels like woohoo. And it's like anytime I've gone through a massive up level, I'm uncomfortable. Now, does that mean I'm miserable? No, but it means I'm stretched. It means I'm operating in, it's like the elastic band. It's like stretch, 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 stretch. You're also stretching your capacity. So it will feel uncomfortable. And I love normalizing this because I think social media can do such a great job of like, look at my payout of 50K months. And then it's like, I'm living my best life. But behind the scenes, they're going through the stretch and the capacity.
Yeah.
The other thing I love to do is a few things. I can clock very quickly when I get complacent, when I'm like, we're cooking, everything's good. And it's not that I seek challenges, but I can start to clock when I'm complacent, when I'm like, I'm not that I'm not
Yeah.
pushing, I'm not going after it. I'm just
Yeah.
like, and sometimes there's seasons for that, but I can clock very quickly. And then I'm like, okay. And I love using the analogy of going to the gym because I feel like people resonate with this. If you're doing a squat and you're squatting, I don't know, 45 pounds, whatever that looks like, and it feels, you're like, I'm cooking, this is easy, you're not growing, like, period, right? And you can do those weights and you get to a point where I'm like, I could probably do 15 more reps with this. And it's like having enough awareness to be like, I have to throw more weight on. And when you put more weight on, it's uncomfortable, but it's like, but then you're growing and you're getting stronger. So I love operating in discomfort. Like it's
Mhm.
my best friend. And it's not that every single day I'm like stretched at capacity and I'm like, oh my God. But I love being in discomfort because I love growing. So I can clock very quickly when I'm complacent, and running a sustainable business and being complacent, it's very different energies. Like, when you've kind of taken your foot off the gas and you're just like, we're just cruising because it's comfortable 100%. Like your nervous system wants to stay comfortable. But I love testing my boundaries. I love pushing my edges. Just like when I go to the gym, I'm like, I know I can do better. And I'm going to do better. So I'm going to put more weight on and it's going to be uncomfortable. And, it's like you get to like the last rep and you're like, can I push more weight? And then you do, or you don't, but you're stretching and you're growing and you're getting stronger. So that's where I really love looking at where are we getting complacent? Where have we taken our foot off the gas? And usually for me, it's when there's a little bit less fun in the business. It's just like we're going through the mundane, like you're showing up and you're selling and you're posting, but you're not like lit on fire. Like when I'm lit on fire, I'm also equally like, oh my God, like we're holding it all. And but that's part of the fun and the play. So for me, that's where I know, content isn't feeling as like magnetic. I go on Instagram and I'm like, it's not landing the way that I want it to. That's for me always an indication that I'm complacent, that I'm like, okay, it's time to shift. It's time to change gears. It's time to, there's so many different ways that it can look like for me, but that's always how I like to indicate is, we can push the same amount of weight, but if it feels easy and comfortable, we're not growing. And when you go to bigger months, holding more clients, charging higher price points, I always love it will be uncomfortable. Like it will be like you can't avoid that. And I think people get to a place of discomfort and they think there's something wrong. And I'm like, no, 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 you're literally on the edge.
Oh,
I was saying this to a client where she's so stretched right now in the best way possible. She's having the time of her life, but she's like, oh, and she's stretched and her nervous system is growing and growing and growing. But then you get to a point where you get that release, and then that's your new normal. It's like now what used to be your warm up or what used to be your working weight at the gym is now your warm up. And that's how you continue to grow the income is when I got to 50K months, I was like, well, let's go to 100. My 100K month was hella uncomfortable, but then now I can normalize it. I'm like, it feels neutral to my nervous system as I go to 150. And when I get to 150, I'm going to be like, oh, and then 150 I'm going to stabilize. And then we're going to go to 200. So yeah, that's kind of how I like to look at things is I can clock when I get complacent. And I do look at the energy behind it. Do I not want to live launch because I really love evergreen and that makes sense for my lifestyle? Or is it from a place of fear and like, I'm kind of scared? And that's how I can always tell if it's alignment or comfort zone.
oh my God. I think because I'm like an athlete myself, and I know the majority of my clients and like audience are as well. So I know that this is going to resonate so hard just because like I think, yeah, like it's exactly where, like it's so funny because it's like, because I can put myself back in that state back years 2, 3, and 4 where I was making 10K months. And my goal was actually, it wasn't even 50K months. I was like, it was 100K months. And that's just like how I function. And I was like, looking back, it's like what I really needed to get in love with again was like the discomfort and like the season that I was in then and like having the time of my life then like in the 10K month like just like how can I make this so effing magical, and then what you were describing, which is like how where do I need to push and stretch and like really get out of complacency.
Yeah.
And not just because I think I would have said like not just in investments, because I know for me that was the easy go-to, like, oh, by just investing like more, then I'll hit like panic and like or stretch or exhilaration, whatever. But like there's so many other dimensions to play with and like to like turn the dial.
Yeah.
And I love how you described like everything. Like I feel like I could speak to you for like 5 hours on this because it's just like there's
I love it.
it
Let's do
is
it.
the way you talk about this is so what's the right word? It's like so down to earth and so like obvious. And I think it's so funny because I've got like a list of a gazillion questions
Love
around the
it.
10K month to 50K months, but I really I'm thinking about the person sitting there and like watching this. And the truth is if all they do is take each piece, like number one, where you were like, talking about how can you literally like enjoy this as opposed to like going over to like the next thing, like how can you make this insane and like fall in love with the process, like even just that. I can assure that the majority of people making 10K months right now are no longer in love with the process, are no longer in like obsessed with their work, obsessed with their mission, obsessed with this day, like on a
Yeah.
weird random Thursday, like obsessed with the Thursday as opposed to obsessed with the 50K result, which was me. Like what you described, like if the person just takes each piece, like, and the refinement that you were talking about, because that's so simplistic, like, but it's so simplistic, and yet so many people are going to sabotage themselves and not do it because it's a bit of effort. It requires you actually going into your algorithm and looking at your data and actually like focusing on you, not focusing on like a gazillion other shiny like objects over here and like looking at other businesses. It requires you, like you said, like sitting more in silence and like
Yeah.
really sitting with yourself and all of that stuff. Like you were saying, like you're more comfortable with the uncomfortable. That all that stuff is uncomfortable, but that's what creates and is a like is a byproduct then of your 50K months is because you have continued to sit in discomfort and you've continued to stretch your weight, like your dumbbells or like your kettlebells or whatever. So then now it's like, oh, but it's like a byproduct. You're not even, it's like you're not even thinking about how much muscle mass you've put on because you're so effing in love with the workout that you don't even, you've forgotten to look at the scales. Like you're
Yeah.
so obsessed with the workout and like in your what you're describing to me is like you're so obsessed with the work and that's what I see from your Instagram post. Like it's like you're so obsessed with teaching and telling and serving and speaking to the human so that it'll like land for them that you're not even yeah, Stripe notifications like that's the cherry on top. That's like the bonus. That's not the actual juice. And I think like when it becomes the juice again, that's when like your numbers skyrocket because you're in the juice, you're living the juice, and then shocking, you start making more and people like literally like resonate and magnetize and so on. So
I
just this
think,
has been so good, Courtney.
yeah. I was just gonna say, just to add to that, it's also like a big thing as well from 10 to 50 is unconditional. Like you can't only feel amazing when you have Stripe payouts and the people are buying. It's like I always say, like, don't show me who you are when you're winning, show me who you are when you're not. Because that's where the embodiment really takes root. Because it's easy to be like, oh, we had a 10K payout or the launch sold out to be like, I'm amazing. But when you post and no one comments, then how do you show up? And
Yeah.
that's a great indication of what your internal identity is. The other thing as well, like to your point of like falling in love with the journey, is I always say this. This was advice I got from my very first business coach, which I bring myself back to every single time. If you can't celebrate a $27 sale, you will never celebrate a $27,000 sale. It will feel the exact same. And it's also really understanding there's another human that saw your content today, that resonated with it, that followed you, that commented, that bought from you, that like whatever that process was. And sometimes we're so quick to be like, it was only $11. And I'm like, it was $11 and someone saw your content on the other side of the world out of all of the people on the, it's like when you make everything a big deal, and I still do this, like someone subscribes to my email list, I'm like, oh my God, like I really do train my body to be in celebration and gratitude, because you get to 50K month and you're like, oh, like I
Yeah.
want to now, or like this doesn't feel exciting. And I've seen this. I've seen this with so many people. They push and they push and they get there because they're placing their worth at the 50K month versus where you are now is so incredible. Like 10K, most people won't get to 10K months. So even just normalizing that, it's like most people won't get there. And it's not about the money. It's like the money is the byproduct. I always, again, back to the sports analogy, I was a track and field runner. I got 3 scholarships to the States. And when I was running my race, I wasn't running to cross the finish line. I was running because I loved to run. You're
Mm.
not building your business to hit 50K months. You're building your business because you love the work and the clients and the results and the moments where you're on Zoom and you end the call and you're like, that call changed my life, or someone invested in, like, that's why you're doing it. And when you almost detach from the money, like the money is the byproduct of the work that you're doing. And every time I crossed the finish line on a race, I wasn't like, let me go get my medal. I was like, I can't wait to go to practice tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
let's go, let's do it again. And that really is some of the biggest shifts that allowed me to just not wake up on the first of the month and be like, here we go again. And if you're there, it's like, I can tell you, you're not, you've detached from the truth of what you're doing, like the vision of what you're doing. So it's like, I love to run because I love to run. I don't love to run because I want to cross the finish line. Do I cross the finish line and win first place? Yes, but that's not why I do it. You're not building to 50K months because you want 50K months. You're building because you love this work. And I promise when you get to 50, you're going to want 100. And when you get to 100, you're going to, so it's like you're going to keep growing, but it's like, who are you along the way? And when you fall in love with who you are along the way, and the ups and the downs and the clients leaving and the clients coming in, and like this person made hate content about me, it's like that's the strengthening. That's you going to the gym and getting stronger every single day versus, well, I lost 50 pounds. It's like you don't get there and you're like, woohoo. You're like, oh my God, that was a ride. That was a ride and a half, and I can't wait to do it again.
This is so good. I'm launching a podcast and I was so excited because I'm gonna ask you to jump on that because like this has been like I guess I think about myself back then and it's like this is exactly what I needed to hear. And I'm not surprised at all, but I'm just like so grateful and I'm so excited about everyone who's gonna watch this. Like I'm already juiced about it. Amazing, Courtney. I'll end it there, even though I'm like so I'm like I'm one more, but I'll stay here. But it was amazing. Thank you so much for your time. This has been incredible. Um, and yeah, for those of you guys who are obviously watching and listening as a recording, we still have an amazing interview coming up with Lou next week, which I'm just as excited about. Like everyone has just been so authentic and raw and real and like unfiltered, and it's like I'm so excited. I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited about all the people who are going to continue watching this in the months to come. And obviously, please feel free to always reach out. Oh, you're so welcome, Kelly. Um, Please feel free to reach out to Courtney. Obviously, like she's incredible. Like absolutely go watch her TikToks. And like I love them. I binge on them. And then her Instagram as well is just like amazing. And obviously, I'll see a bunch of you guys next week. There are all the details on emails, so I'll keep it short here, but make sure you're checking the emails about the giveaways and the incredible prizes that you can win. And then make sure to watch all of the recordings if you haven't already. Just binge, because there is pure gold. And I can't wait to see just the breakthroughs and the aha moments. Send them to me. Let me know what's coming up for you. And I will see you guys next week for the next part of the summit. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you for having me and putting this on. This is so incredible. I love this. This was such a good conversation.
Yay. All right. Bye, ladies. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you next week.